How's it, guys, and welcome back. So this is a Afric BL180 Mini steel lathe. Um, for the hobbyist, there really isn't much more you need than this. However, out of the box, there's a few nigglies that I just didn't like, right? And so relatively inexpensive changes are going to, first of all, you have to strip everything, clean it, and spray it. We know that. So I did some relatively inexpensive changes, and it's improved the experience a hundredfold. So we're going to go over a few of these sort of small adaptations, and hopefully it will improve your lathing experience. So guys, if you find this video helps you, please support my channel by liking the video, obviously subscribing, and I'm going to put a link to my PayPal, because as we know, buy me a coffee does not work in South Africa, much like everything else, including electricity. It's amazing we've got electricity to even use a lathe. So the shortest or the easiest and by far the most effective modification I've made is this little aluminium block here. Now, believe it or not, this was just a piece of aluminium cut out of one of the Galmar squares that you buy for 50 Rand. And then you've already got two M5 holes over here in your compound that, okay, the first thing I did was take off the tool post, and I put a mic on the compound and got it dead nut straight. Just up for it that way. I know guys like to angle their compound at 30 degrees using the sine law. It will allow you to have much finer movements on your tool depth. But what I am doing for the most is making axles for gate motor wheels, and I'm also making these tiny little driver pins. As you can see, they spool pins, and they've got a groove in there, and this was a trial run with steel. They work perfectly. Now I've got some brass, and they go inside my favorite lock, the Aber 7240, which tends to wear out after some picking. So I thought, well, I'm going to get some brass rods and make them. So obviously you need complete accuracy, depth, and this way, because what I'm using for the most is a right to left cutter, and I'm using a parting tool that is high-speed steel, because then I can grind it down to the exact width of that groove, and I can use it to part off a part. So because you're changing tools the whole time, well, before we get to that, let's discuss this. So you want to know, you've got your drawing, you've got your it's faced off, you've cut it into roundness or whatever your correct diameter, and now you want to cut your groove. So if you come onto your micrometer here, it's going to give you a way more accurate. So what I do is just zero it, and I can get that depth of that groove exactly right on the parting tool. So all I do is mic these up. Then if you want to, then once you've got the groove for the spool, you move it across to part it off, and you've got your mic set on 0 or however you want to do it, and you just can move across. I even use this. I very seldom use a compound traveling. I just use the Carriage traveler over here, and as you can see, you've got quite a fair bit of control, and then just fine tune it this way and go ahead and part off your part. So I find with really more accurate uh, work that we're doing with something like that, you kind of want to use this just to get a bit more accuracy. So that is the one. And then of course what I've done is I have put the entire lathe on a steel base, so that these, but obviously you're going to put yours on a steel table, and so that your tools can, on magnetic holders, can actually magnetic themselves onto the steel. So I found that pretty useful to do, and works quite nicely for me. So that sort of covers this little extension here. I have for now just put these turn screws on. I need to get nice stainless bolts that are exactly the right thread. I think they're M3 by 0.75. I think that's their spec. But I mean, you can measure it and grab yourself that pretty standard pre-drilled holes already in the compound. So you're golden with that. The next absolute must I find is your quick change tool holder. Now this is off Temu. It's like 800-900 bucks, and it's fantastic. This did not require any modifications. I'm going to put a link in the description to this. Required no modifications, and there's two massive advantages. Three. First off, you don't need to be struggling with Allen keys, which I absolutely hate, with these old tool posts and adjusting your tools. That's your first. You just switch them over, and your next one pops in because of the screw, because of the mechanism. It goes in exactly where it came out. So that is very useful for me. They're each individually adjustable. So you've got the convenience, and what happens here is when you put your parting tool back in, it goes right back in exactly where you took it out. So if you want to, what was happening before, and the reason why I got this was that if you every time I change over to the parting tool, I've got to square it off the chuck. Now you take it out, and I've changed tools, I popped it back in, and it's square again off the chuck. And I don't need to continually square off, square off, square off. On this finer work, high speed steel is your friend. So you are using, I was using the 10x10, which I ground down, and this actually has the parting tool blade. Which brings me to my next advantage of getting the quick change tool post, and that is that this is not a 10x10 stock. It's 3 mils width, but it's actually 11.5, because I, for the life of me, cannot get 10x10 or 10x3 high-speed steel blades in this country. I have to get them in off Temu or somewhere, and it's a problem. I mean, you just ground them down, so that it's not like you have to be changing tips. But this is 11.6. So if you look down here at the bottom, that is set to 11.6. Now I'm going to take it out of there, and I'm going to pop it in here. And then we tighten it up, and I'm going to line it up with my tailstock. It's 11.6, and it's lining up with my tailstock. So you can take 12, 13. So your variety of tools, especially with availability of tools for these mini steel lathes is very difficult. To get these 10x10s, it's a struggle. So this is going to give you more flexibility. However, when you look at your low ones you buy locally, they're 3.5 grand. So I would suggest buying 2 of them, because it comes with a boring bar holder, which is dedicated to boring bars. It comes with 2 square tools if you want a general tools that, like, really you're only really going to be cutting right to left. But if you want to be adding in other tools, for example, your knurling tool, which is also 12 mil, so you can also center this 12 mil knurling tool. You can do that. So I would actually just get 2 of them, because it's cheaper to get another set than to try and find these. And of course on Temu, they're not going to give you exact dimensions on everything. So just order 2, and get the one off the link. There are different sizes, and the one off the link fitted on here with no modification. All I did, I popped it on, and I put the high-speed steel blade in, and I squared the blade off. Then I tightened it here, and that's done. Comes with a bolt, fits straight on. You just take the stud out, job done. And that's quite cool. And then another bit on the tools is, when I find that you're facing off on an item, this thing doesn't have a carriage lock, and that is incredibly frustrating when you're facing off and as you're coming out. So you're going to come out, and you're going to touch off, and you're going to start facing off. But this doesn't have a lock. There is no lock on this carriage. So there is a little 10 mil bolt under here, but it's such a mission to get to every single time. However, there's a hole. So this clamp over here that clamps it across bolts from the bottom. So I ran a bolt up through. You will have to make the top hole bigger. For some reason, the threads don't line up. I don't know why there's a thread on the top. No idea. It looks exactly like that. except it's here and it doesn't quite line up with the bottom hole. So you just have to get a 10 mil drill and line them up or mill it out. It's cast iron, it's not very difficult to do. And then if I need to lock it, this is actually a very small tap holder with some 10 mil bolts. I can just get a bit of elbow in there and your carriage is locked. And then obviously when you're doing that, make sure that your automatic feeder is not engaged and your carriage is going to go nowhere. That way you're going to get a straight face off. And I've always found that you try and hold it in here, but you're never accurate. So you end up with an uneven surface. And when it comes to drilling into that surface, so I'm just operating the bolt from the top, from the thread side, instead of from with a spanner from the other side. So I found that that works very well for me. Obviously check that your whole carriage isn't rocking and that these are set correctly while you're at it. Which brings us to the tailstock. Now, another issue I've had with the Mac Afric is these markings. Oh man, you know they are not good. Okay, I can't see a thing. So what I did was I actually took one of these. I don't know what it is. It's a plumbing sort of clampy, naily in the wall, and I got a piece of aluminium, just tube or spacer or whatever it is, little bolt, measured it up, and then I turned that down, reamed it out so it fits over that lip, and just with a normal reamer, banged it in there at a slow RPM just by hand. I know it's a bit sketch, but whatever, it worked. And then hit it with, obviously not with the lathe on, you can cut that groove over there with right hand cutting tool, and then a black marker, and it's job done. Now, how does it work? It's very simple. Little ruler, and let's put our, so it's not attached to the fitting, it's attached to this part, and let's bang our drill bit in. This is also a bit sketchy, I don't know. So the only way to measure this is like this. Give that a good wedge in there. And when you want to drill, let's say you want to go in 10 mils or 20 mils, you're going to put the marker on the little magnet here over there. It's quite easy to line up, doesn't have to be touching. Give it a loosen, then touch it up to your workpiece, and then as you go in, you're going to be able to measure quite accurately the depth of your hole. Now I find that is quite useful for the camera parts I want to make, and for any hole that needs an exact depth, because for love nor money I can't read the dials that come with it. So this is a cheap little plumbing clamp and a bit of turning, and there you are. Look, I mean, this is the one thing I've learned about using a lathe, is that it's patience. It all comes down to patience, and there's so much setting up to do for each different operation that you got to make it as streamlined as possible. Otherwise you're actually just going to find yourself more trying to set it up than doing the work itself. So these modifications, these 4 little modifications, have made this whole lathing experience completely different. Carriage lock, an easy measure, drill depth, quick change tool post, more variety of tools, and then an easy spot to mark off on the compound. So guys, if this video has helped you, again, please like and subscribe. I hope it has helped you. And if you want to buy me a coffee or make a donation, my PayPal is in the description. And thank you for watching.